In the vastness of deep space, a council chamber floated within a fortress ship so large that entire cities could have been placed inside its armored walls. The chamber was filled with alien generals, tall figures with jagged armor plates across, their skin and eyes that glowed with cold light. They sat around a massive table carved from black stone, and every movement they made echoed with arrogance. Their voices rumbled like storms as they laughed at the very thought of war against Earth. For them, humanity was nothing but a curiosity, a species too young, too fragile, and too chaotic to deserve real war strategy. They had faced hundreds of civilizations across the galaxy, and they had crushed them all with disciplined fleets and ancient tactics. They believed they were invincible, and their laughter filled the chamber like thunder rolling through the night. At the center of the table, a hologram flickered, showing the small human fleets moving across star systems. The ships were smaller, weaker, slower, compared to the alien Armada. Yet they darted in odd formations, scattering across sectors without rhythm or reason. To the alien generals, it looked like confusion and desperation. They mocked the very sight of it. One of them slammed, a clawed hand on the table, saying, "These humans run in circles like frightened animals. Do they truly believe this nonsense is strategy?" Another leaned back, his long teeth bared in a grin. "They are entertaining at least. Let them dance before we crush their fragile world." Their voices layered over each other, drowning the chamber in waves of cruel amusement. Every insult thrown was sharper than the last. Every general tried to outdo the other in describing the weakness of humanity. It was not a war council anymore, but a stage for their arrogance. Some called Earth a nest of insects. Some compared human warships to broken toys. Others declared that the humans would surrender before the first alien fleet even reached orbit, but not every voice in that chamber joined the laughter. At the far end sat an older commander. His armor was scarred from centuries of battles, his single eye dimmed yet burning with caution. He had fought enemies who had once been dismissed only to rise and bite back, harder than anyone imagined. When the laughter calmed, he spoke slowly and with weight in his voice. "You laugh now as if victory is already ours. But I warn you, never underestimate prey that refuses to kneel. Humanity is not what you think. They adapt. They learn. They do not break as easily as you believe." The chamber fell silent for a brief moment, but then erupted again in greater waves of mockery. Some generals pointed at the old commander with cruel amusement, saying, "Age has softened his mind. He fears shadows where none exist." Another sneered, "The humans are children playing at war. Let them adapt if they wish. Their learning will only delay their end." The old commander did not respond. He sat back with his claws folded and his eye locked on the flickering hologram of human fleets. He saw something the others did not. Something buried under the strange movements of those tiny ships. A rhythm hidden inside the chaos. A shape forming where none should exist. He felt the cold sting of unease in his chest, but he remained silent. He had warned them, and they had chosen to laugh. That was enough for him. Beyond the walls of the alien fortress, the Armada prepared for war. Thousands of warships lined in perfect rows, stretching across the void like blades of steel. Their engines roared with power. Their weapons glowed with endless firepower. To them, this was another simple conquest, a task that required no thought and no caution. Orders were given, and fleets began their march toward Earth, leaving trails of burning light behind on Earth. The humans watched the enemy approach with eyes sharp and unflinching. Command centers buried beneath mountains filled with tense silence. Screens glowed with alien movement maps flickered with red dots spreading across space. Generals in human uniforms leaned over the glowing tables studying the enemy advance. Their voices were low, steady, and calm, while the world outside trembled in fear. They knew the enemy believed them foolish. They knew the enemy was laughing, and they intended to use that arrogance like a blade. While the alien generals roared with pride, humanity whispered with determination. Soldiers strapped into their ships prepared for missions that no one outside their circles could understand. Their families prayed, their children clutched old photographs, their leaders gave speeches promising survival, not victory. For survival was all they needed until their trap was ready. Back in the fortress ship, the alien generals continued their endless laughter as the first reports came in human fleets, scattering, retreating, some even vanishing into asteroid fields. The aliens took this as proof of weakness. They called it running. They called it fear, yet somewhere hidden. Behind the curtain of confusion, the true game had already begun. The old commander rose slowly from his seat. His voice cut through the storm of arrogance like a blade dripping with ice. "You see them running. I see them hunting." His words were drowned, once again by mockery, but his eye never left the hologram. He knew prey that learned to hunt was more dangerous than any predator. And so the Armada sailed forward with laughter in their hearts, blind to the silence that awaited them in the dark. Folds of space, humanity prepared in shadows while the aliens laughed in light. That laughter would soon fade, but for now it filled the stars like a cruel anthem echoing through the void. The first wave of alien ships tore across the void with confidence. Their engines pulsed with light brighter than suns, and their formations stretched like endless walls of fire. Nothing in their minds could stop them, for humanity was nothing but a weak obstacle in their path. Yet as their fleets advanced deeper, into human sectors, something strange began to unfold. Human ships appeared in odd clusters, drifting like scattered insects in the darkness. They darted left, then right, breaking formation, as if panic had gripped their commanders. The alien generals, who watched from their command chamber, leaned forward with cruel delight. Their voices filled the air with mocking laughter. They saw chaos. They saw fear. They saw what they had expected all along. Humanity was running. Humanity was breaking. One general slammed his fist down and declared, "Their will is gone already. Look how they scatter in every direction." Another added, "Let them flee into the dark. We will hunt them down and erase them from the stars." But not all was what it seemed. From hidden bases, buried in asteroid belts, from stations cloaked by the shadow of distant moons, human commanders whispered to their fleets. Every move that looked like panic was carefully calculated. Every retreat was placed to lure the alien ships deeper into corridors of space that were invisible to the arrogant enemy. The aliens believed they were the hunters, but step by step they were being led like prey into an unseen cage. Human ships lit their engines in strange bursts, weaving patterns that seemed senseless to any alien eye. They split into small groups, vanishing into asteroid fields, then emerging again from nebula clouds. Their signals flickered as if breaking their own communication, yet in truth, every signal carried a hidden code. A secret rhythm, passed between captains, a pulse of light that told them when to move, where to hide, and when to strike. Each flicker of chaos was a thread in a larger net, tightening around the enemy without their knowledge in the fortress ship of the alien command. The old scarred general watched in silence. His eye narrowed as the holograms shifted with every human movement. The laughter of his peers grew louder, but he saw patterns beneath the surface. He saw how the humans scattered only to reappear in ways that closed unseen doors around the alien fleets. He felt unease gnaw at him like a cold whisper, but he held his tongue, for his warnings had already been dismissed. The younger generals leaned back with arrogance, declaring the battle already won. Reports arrived of small human squadrons destroyed with ease. Pieces of shattered ships burned in space like falling stars. Alien soldiers cheered as they saw fragments drifting in silence, believing they had broken the enemy completely. Yet for every human ship destroyed, two more slipped away into hidden routes. For every explosion of human failure, there was a quiet shadow of human intent growing stronger in the dark. Earth's leaders remained calm as the enemy advanced. Human commanders spoke in low, measured tones, never raising their voices, not even when casualty lists appeared on their screens. Their eyes stayed fixed on the larger picture, for they knew sacrifice was necessary to bait the predator into the trap. Their strategies were old yet new, simple yet unseen by alien minds who believed war was only strength against strength. Humanity had decided to fight with patience, not with pride. The fleets of the aliens grew restless as days turned to weeks. They expected a direct confrontation, a clash of firepower that would end swiftly. Yet no matter how far they chased the humans, they never found the decisive battle they wanted. Instead, they found only fragments, only ghosts, only ships that lured them deeper into regions of space charted poorly even by their ancient maps. Each sector swallowed them like a maze. Each turn pulled them further from safety. Still they laughed, blinded by their arrogance. Still they called the humans weak, believing the hunt was theirs. Among the alien crews, whispers began to grow. Soldiers on the smaller ships spoke quietly of the strange silence in the void around them. They noticed how the humans always appeared just far enough to be seen and then vanished again, without a trace. They noticed how their own supply lines stretched thinner and thinner as they pushed deeper into enemy space. Their generals dismissed these fears with words of dominance, but unease spread like cracks in glass. The old commander spoke again in the council chamber, his voice low and sharp as steel in the dark. "They are not fleeing. They are guiding you. Do you not see it?" Their silence fell heavy after his words, but soon it was broken once more by arrogant laughter. One general leaned across the table and hissed, "Age has rotted your mind, old one. These humans are nothing. They are prey running until exhaustion takes them." The old commander did not answer. He only stared at the hologram as human ships flickered once more across the edge of the projection. Each flicker was a heartbeat, and in that rhythm he heard something none of the others could. The bait was working. Humanity had wrapped their weakness in disguise and handed it to their enemy. They let the aliens laugh. They let them believe they were breaking. But every laugh pulled the noose tighter around their necks. Every step forward was another step into the dark mouth of the trap. And somewhere beyond the visible map, beyond the reach of alien eyes, something waited, in silence. A weapon not of brute strength, but of patience and precision. A weapon hidden in the folds of space itself. The humans were not running. They were waiting. The alien fleets continued their pursuit through the vast expanse of space, drawn deeper into the heart of the human territories. Their commanders, still confident, ordered their ships into tighter formations, believing the final strike was imminent. The humans, they assumed, had nowhere left to run. Yet as the alien ships pressed forward, a strange, suffocating silence settled over them. No human ships emerged from the shadows. No signals came from the far reaches of space. Only the vast, empty void stared back at them. At first, the silence was a curiosity, a momentary lull in what was supposed to be an unstoppable charge. The alien generals looked at each other in confusion, but the laughter never stopped. Their arrogance, which had once echoed through the chambers like a storm, now seemed to hang uneasily in the air, as if the very weight of it had become a burden. "Where are they?" one of the younger commanders asked, his voice betraying a hint of uncertainty. The other generals laughed dismissively, brushing off the question as a minor disturbance. "They've run off, lost in the stars," one of them said confidently. "It's over. We've won." But the old commander, sitting quietly at the far end of the table, knew better. He had been silent for days, observing, waiting. And now, as he scanned the empty space before him, a deep, unshakable feeling settled in his chest. The humans weren't gone. They were somewhere, and they were watching. The tension aboard the alien Armada grew with each passing minute. The long stretches of empty space between their ships felt more like a trap than an open battlefield. Their ships, massive and imposing, filled the silence with the sound of their engines, but the commanders felt it, a gnawing unease at the edges of their minds. Something wasn't right. The humans were not retreating. They were making them chase shadows. The old commander rose from his seat, his scarred face set in a grim expression. "They're not running. They're waiting," he said quietly, his voice cutting through the murmurs of his peers. The younger generals scoffed, rolling their eyes. "You've become paranoid, old one. The humans are finished. We are about to end this." But the old commander could see it. The strange movements of the human fleets, now seemingly absent, had never been random. Each disappearance, each sudden reappearance, was part of a larger plan, one that the alien generals had failed to see. The humans were luring them into the deepest, most dangerous parts of space, away from the safety of their fleet's formation. And then it began. At first, it was nothing more than a flicker, a single ship appearing at the edge of the alien fleet's radar, almost too faint to be seen. A distant signal that seemed to vanish the moment they focused on it. Then, another, and another. Like ghosts, human ships began to slip in and out of the alien fleet's range, each time drawing closer, as if teasing them, pushing them further and further into unfamiliar, uncharted space. The alien fleet commanders ordered their ships to lock onto the signals, to move in and strike. But no matter how fast they moved, the humans always seemed just out of reach, always slipping into the shadows of the void. Every time the alien ships thought they had cornered a human vessel, it would vanish again, only to reappear elsewhere, closer to their center. Panic started to rise among the alien ranks, though it was still masked by bravado and arrogance. The younger generals shouted orders, their voices filled with frustration. "Why won't they fight?" one demanded. "They're playing games with us. Draw them out! Corner them!" But the more they tried to trap the humans, the more they realized how hopeless it was. The humans weren't playing their game. They had already changed the rules. The old commander watched in silence, knowing what would happen next. The humans had done what no one thought possible. They had made the alien fleet, made them the prey. As the alien ships advanced deeper into the trap, the first fleet disappeared without a trace. No warning, no explosion, just gone. One moment, they were there, the next. They were swallowed by the dark abyss of space, as though they had never existed. The surviving ships of the fleet scattered in confusion, their commanders shouting in panic, sending out frantic distress signals. Where did they go? The voice was frantic now, filled with terror. The alien fleet was no longer a predator, but a victim of the hunt, and that hunt was far from over. Within minutes, another fleet vanished, just as silently, just as completely. This time, the remaining ships were hit with the full weight of the horror. They didn't understand. They couldn't comprehend how. Entire warships could disappear from existence without a single shot fired. No debris, no energy signatures, nothing. Just emptiness. The old commander stood still, his eyes locked on the holographic projections before him, his mind racing. He had known this moment would come, but the reality of it was still chilling. The humans had done the impossible. They had turned the tide of war with a single, devastating move, without a single shot being fired. As the alien fleets grew more disoriented, more terrified, the human forces closed in from all sides. The first trap had been set, and now the aliens were in a cage of their own making. The vastness of space, once a playground for their dominance, had become their tomb. In the command chamber, the younger generals shouted, giving orders to turn back, to regroup. But the Old Commander could only watch as the rest of the fleet followed its predecessors into oblivion, one by one, slipping into the abyss. Their fate was sealed, and they had no idea what was coming next. At that moment, the Old Commander realized one thing. The aliens had underestimated humanity. They had laughed at them, mocked their strategies, and dismissed them as weak prey. But now, as their armada vanished without a trace, it was clear that the humans had been waiting for this moment all along. The tables had turned, and the humans were no longer the hunted. They had become the hunters. The alien fleets were in disarray, their once proud formations now scattered across the dark expanse of space like broken pieces of a shattered mirror. The void, once filled with the roaring engines of invincible ships, was now eerily silent. For the first time in their existence, the aliens felt the weight of true fear, the fear of the unknown, the fear of the unseen. They had become the hunted. As the last of their ships disappeared into the abyss, the remaining generals huddled together in their command center. Their faces, once filled with pride and confidence, were now etched with confusion and terror. The holographic map flickered, showing only the empty reaches of space. The human ships had vanished again, slipping back into the darkness, as elusive as shadows. "Where are they?" one of the younger generals shouted, slamming his fist against the console. "How are they doing this? We've wiped out their fleets. They should be done. They should be running." But the old commander stood still, his piercing eyes scanning the empty space around them. He was the only one who truly understood the situation. He had seen it before. The quiet, patient waiting of a species that knew how to strike when the time was right. The humans were not running. They were not hiding. They were drawing the aliens in, further and further into their trap. "They're not gone," the old commander said, his voice quiet but steady. "They are watching us. They are letting us think we are winning. But they are playing us. They've been playing us from the start." The younger generals looked at him, their eyes wide with disbelief. "What do you mean? How could they still have the strength to do this?" The old commander turned to them, his expression grave. "They've learned something we didn't. They've learned how to use our arrogance against us. They've learned how to make us believe that we are in control, while they are quietly moving the pieces of the game. This is their gambit." A heavy silence fell over the room as the alien commanders processed his words. They had believed that they were the ones in charge, that they could crush humanity with a single devastating blow. But now, they saw the truth. They had underestimated the humans, not only in their strength but in their cunning. Every move they had made had been part of a larger plan, a plan that had been unfolding in front of them while they had laughed, mocked, and dismissed their enemies. Meanwhile, far away, humanity watched. The human commanders had seen the outcome. They had hoped for. They had baited the aliens into the depths of space, drawing them into a trap they couldn't escape. The alien fleets had been split, isolated, and weakened. It was time for the next phase of the plan. In the shadows of the asteroid fields, human ships began to move. They were no longer small, scattered squadrons, but well-organized fleets, each ship moving with precision and purpose. The humans had known from the beginning that they could not win through brute force. Their ships were too small, too weak, to face the might of the alien armada head-on. But they had something the aliens didn't: patience, and the ability to turn their weaknesses into weapons. As the alien generals continued to argue and blame each other, the humans were making their move. Their ships emerged from the shadows, appearing at the edges of the alien fleets, just as they had before. But this time, the humans weren't running. They weren't retreating into the darkness. They were striking. The first wave of human ships was small but deadly. They moved in perfect synchronization, launching precise, targeted strikes against the alien armada. The aliens, still reeling from the loss of so many ships, were caught off guard. They scrambled to respond, but the humans were already gone. slipping back into the darkness before the aliens could react. It was a game of cat and mouse, but this time, the humans were the hunters. They had learned to use the terrain to their advantage, hiding in the shadows of asteroid belts and nebulae, waiting for the right moment to strike. Every attack was a calculated risk, every move a step closer to their final goal. The alien generals were furious. They had never imagined such tactics from a species they had deemed inferior. They had believed the humans would fight with strength, that they would meet their power with brute force. But the humans were playing a different game. They were attacking from all angles, striking swiftly and then disappearing before the aliens could retaliate. "This is madness!" one of the alien commanders shouted, his voice tinged with panic. "We've been lured into a trap! We are surrounded!" The old commander remained silent, his eye fixed on the hologram. He had been right. The humans had done the impossible. They had turned the tables, using their strength in ways the aliens had never expected. As the human ships continued to strike, the alien fleets began to fracture even further. Some ships began to break off, fleeing in different directions, unable to coordinate against the relentless, unpredictable attacks. Others were destroyed, their shattered remains floating in the emptiness of space like broken toys. The old commander spoke again, his voice calm but filled with an unspoken authority. "This is the moment. The humans have already won. We are no longer in control." The younger generals looked at him in disbelief, their minds racing to process the enormity of what was happening. How could this have happened? How could they have been outsmarted by a species they had once considered beneath them? But the answer was simple. The humans had understood something the aliens had never grasped. They had understood that victory was not just about strength, but about intelligence, about patience, about waiting for the right moment to strike. And now the moment had come. The human gambit had worked. The trap had been set. And the aliens, with all their might, had walked right into it. The alien fleets were broken, disarrayed, their pride and arrogance shattered into pieces that floated like debris across the void. The once unshakable confidence of the alien generals had crumbled under the weight of their own failure. They had chased the humans across the stars, believing they could crush them with ease, but instead they had been drawn into a trap they couldn't escape. The laughter that once filled the alien command center had long since faded, replaced by the cold, empty silence of defeat. In the heart of the alien Armada, the last remaining ships struggled to maintain cohesion, the once mighty warships, gleaming with power and strength, were now nothing more than wounded animals, circling aimlessly, unsure of where to go next. The alien generals had no answers, no solutions. They had underestimated the humans, and now they were paying the price. Amidst the chaos, the old commander stood silent, his eye fixed on the holographic map before him. His mind was sharp, calculating, aware of the danger that still lingered in the shadows. He knew that victory was within reach for the humans, but he also knew that the war was far from over. The humans had played their game well, but the aliens were not defeated yet. There was still one last card to play. The younger generals, their faces drawn and filled with frustration, paced around the command center. Their once proud ships were now scattered across the galaxy, far from where they had once stood in unshakable formation. Some of them shouted orders, but the commands were weak, ineffective. They had lost control of the situation, and they knew it. "We can still turn this around," one of the younger commanders muttered, his voice filled with desperation. "We have the firepower. We can crush them if we—" "No," the old commander interrupted, his voice calm and steady. "It is too late. The humans have already won, but they do not know the cost of their victory." The younger generals looked at him in confusion. "What do you mean? We still have fleets left. We still have power." The old commander's gaze never wavered from the hologram. The humans have outplayed us. They used our arrogance, our pride, against us. They baited us, made us believe we were in control. But now, the trap is closing in on them. They do not see it yet, but they will soon. The generals exchanged uncertain glances. They had been trained to fight, to conquer, to destroy. But now they faced a new enemy, a cunning, unpredictable force that had turned their own strengths into weaknesses. The humans had used patience and intelligence, waiting for the right moment to strike. And when that moment came, the humans had already anticipated the aliens' every move. The old commander took a deep breath, his mind racing. He could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. He had seen many battles, fought many wars, but this was different. The humans had found a way to survive, to fight back, and now they were on the verge of winning. But in the silence of the command center, the old commander knew that the war was not over. The humans had made a fatal mistake. They had underestimated the will of the alien forces, the one thing they had failed to account for, the alien desire for revenge. Back in the heart of the human fleet, the commanders were confident. Their ships had emerged victorious. Their tactics had been flawless. The alien armada had been shattered, and now the humans were ready to press forward to claim their place in the stars. But as they watched the remaining alien ships struggle to regroup, a sense of unease began to settle over them. They had won the battle. But what about the war? The alien generals had been defeated, but the aliens themselves were not the only threat. The real danger lay in what came next, the final reckoning, the moment when the last remnants of the alien forces would make their final stand. The humans knew that the next move would determine everything. The old commander's voice broke through the silence again. "Prepare yourselves," he said. "You have won the battle, but the war is not over. The humans have no idea what they have unleashed. You believe they have defeated us, but they have only forced us into the final stage of the game." The younger generals, still reeling from the shock of their defeat, looked to the old commander for guidance. But there was no hope in his eyes, only a cold, calculating resolve. "What are you saying?" one of them asked, his voice trembling. "What final stage?" The old commander turned slowly, his gaze locking with each of the generals in turn. "We will fight until the very last ship is gone. We will fight not just for victory, but for survival. And when it is over, the humans will know the cost of underestimating us." The final stage had begun. The alien armada, battered and broken, began to regroup, pulling together their remaining strength for one last, desperate assault. They had been humbled, but they had not been crushed. They had been outplayed, but they had not been defeated. And now, with the humans thinking they were on the verge of victory, the aliens prepared to unleash their final devastating strike. Thus, turning point had come. The humans had won the battle, but the true war was just beginning.